Today I'm going to talk about AI in eye care, the prospects and challenges. My name is Dr. Yosif Albrahem, currently work in Kettering General Hospital in the Kettering in the United Kingdom. Um, uh, in this presentation, we're going to speak about AI applications in ophthalmology and the challenges that we face when applying AI in ophthalmology, and also the advantages of using AI in ophthalmology and the future directions in that sense. So as an introduction, as we all know, AI has become a transformative tool in medicine, and not just medicine. It has been a transformative tool in every aspect of our lives. Nowadays, it has applications in engineering, in military, in politics, everywhere. But in medicine, it has been used quite extensively recently, and specifically also in ophthalmology and eye care. Now, there's widespread applications, whether it's regarding diagnosis, whether it's like clinical decision tools. You just enter some variables, and then you end up with a clinical decision for your patients. And the importance here is the growing burden of eye disorders. We've got a huge burden of cataract, glaucoma, those common vision-threatening diseases, which necessitate a large-scale visual screening programs that otherwise would need lots of experienced ophthalmologists, but instead we can use an AI system that can detect those early diseases and can refer to secondary care later on. So examples of these would be the IDX-DR system, the diabetic retinopathy system, which has shown impressive sensitivity and specificity of 95% in detecting referable diabetic retinopathy. Cataract, also there are applications in detecting early cataract, early strabismus, especially in children, where detection at the early stage can prevent long-term complications like amblyopia. But when applying AI, we need to balance the benefits versus the risks, and that's what we're going to talk about in our presentation. So the applications currently of AI in ophthalmology, these include diabetic retinopathy, age-related macular degeneration, and also in public health, not just specifically, but also on the wider picture. You can apply it on public health and what we call tele-ophthalmology, where you can screen basically from the comfort of your own home. You don't need to go to a clinic, you don't need to go to the hospital to get screened. You can do that from the comfort of your own home. That's what we call tele-ophthalmology. So in diabetic retinopathy, this has been shown to have impressive sensitivity and specificity in detecting referable diabetic retinopathy. In one study by Gulshan in 2016, they found sensitivity as high as 97%, 0.5, and 96%, 0.1, and a specificity of 93% at high sensitivity points. And when you take high specificity points, the specificity is also quite high, 98%, and the sensitivity is still high, 90 and 87%. And this is when we use the AI system as compared to 7 US board certified ophthalmologists. So if you compare 7 US board certified ophthalmologists with the AI system, this is the sensitivity and the specificity that we can have. So you can see it's a quite impressive sensitivity and specificity. And it's not just detection of the underlying diabetic retinopathy, but also it can predict progression of diabetic retinopathy over 5 years. So for example, a study by Dye in 2024 found that the DDR plus system can predict the progression of diabetic retinopathy in 5 years, which can help us basically plan individually for patients later on using just fundus photographs. This is very important because it can, loosen the impact or the workload on the eye screening systems, basically, because you can not just detect, but you can also predict how likely this disease is going to progress over 5 years, and thus you can plan ahead and put treatment plans for those patients. As for age-related macular degeneration, also good sensitivities and specificities, 88% and 91%, and it just doesn't only screen for the disease itself, but it also can predict the transformation from dry AMD to wet AMD, and therefore you predict the need for the anti-VEGF treatment within 2 years, and also it can predict a specific anti-VEGF choice for those patients, which is also quite impressive. And also it can predict the response to treatment. So you can put various variables in the AI system, and then it can predict the impact on the visual outcome and the response to treatment for those patients. The other idea is public health and teleophthalmology. As I said, you can screen for those disorders from the comfort of your own home using smartphone technology. Some of the latest smartphones have very good cameras that we can use them to actually screen for diseases like cataract, diabetic retinopathy, even glaucomatous optic nerve damage can be screened through this aspect, and this will enable large screening programs to be undertaken on the wider public, and thus would improve the accessibility to eye care and eye screening. So the advantages, as we can see, is to classify retinal diseases, predict the prognosis and the disease progression, and honestly to also reduce the workload on our eye care unit, because you would need lots of ophthalmologists to look at those pictures and then see which one needs to be referred, which one not. But instead of that, I can just use a system that can detect that instead and refer to tertiary centers. Also, it can improve access to screening programs in underprivileged populations, people in countries where there's not a lot of ophthalmologists available. So if we can use an AI system to implement a screening program, that would be very helpful in those specific populations. Now, obviously, with any system in medicine, there are challenges and benefits. So we've discussed the benefits. Let's discuss the challenges. Now, there are a few terms that I'd like to highlight. So, for example, bias in patient safety, data privacy and cybersecurity, ownership of health records, the black box issue, medical liability, and accessibility. So bias in patient safety. So, when we use those AI systems, we might use them on a specific population, for example, specific race or specific age population, while we train the actual AI programs. But when we get to apply them in real life, we've got patients from different backgrounds, from different races, from different genders, age groups. So, AI system may perform impressively in training, but when we apply it in the actual world, it results in disappointing results, basically false alarms, misdiagnoses, and things that are not concerning, then the AI flag them as concerning. So that is one problem that AI programs face when it comes to screening, and also the quality of the data that we've trained the AI on. For example, if you use images of low quality, of high quality, for example, to train the AI system, and then later on when you apply it on in real life, you might end up having some poor quality images in real life for patients, and then the AI may not detect the diseases that you're looking for just because it was trained earlier on high quality images. So that is also one issue. Data privacy and cybersecurity, and because it's an AI system, there's data held online, and criminals can access these data and invade the data privacy, and this can lead to the potential leak or sale of confidential information of patients, which can be even used in political or cyber warfare purposes. So and even at some points, criminals may access the AI algorithm, do some configurations there, and this can end up in giving incorrect diagnosis or management plans. So that's why maintaining proper cybersecurity for those AI systems is of paramount importance. So there's always the risk of data privacy and cybersecurity breaches when it comes to AI systems. The other thing is who owns the health records, because if you take a fundus photograph of a patient and you transfer that to the AI company, to work on the algorithm and give you a diagnosis, then there is this legal question: who owns those health records? Is it the patient? Is it the hospital? Is it the AI company? And can we transfer actually those data to the AI companies without the patient consent? So that also remains, a gray area that needs to be considered. The other thing is the black box issue. And what we mean hereby is you enter some variable to the AI system, and it seems to come up with a diagnosis or like a plan that you actually don't know how the AI system come up with. And that's what we call the black box issue. So the AI system doesn't provide you with explanation on or the pathway that it undertook on how it came up with that specific diagnosis or with that specific decision. And to solve that, we can use what we call white box AI tools, where there's a specific pathway that the AI undertake and gives you to explain to you how it reached that diagnosis or that clinical decision. However, this is less efficient than the black box AI, and but at the same time, you have to weigh the risks and benefits. You want to be transparent with your patients how we come up with that decision, so you achieve that right of explanation goal of AI system. The other issue is medical liability. So let's say the AI, referred someone with or like miss a diagnosis of wet AMD or like that, or some severe diabetic retinopathy changes, and then the patient ended up going blind on that eye. So whom do we blame here? Who's held liable? Is it the system, the AI system? Is it the hospital? Is it the ophthalmologist? Is it the software developer? So whom to blame? This can be blurry when it comes to applying AI systems, and patients have the right to to complain and to have transparent answers. So that is also one of the issues when it comes to medical liability. And the final thing is the accessibility. So AI systems and algorithms are expensive as well. So I might not be able to apply them in poorer countries. And then there comes the issue of accessibility as well. So will anyone in the population benefit from AI? That's also a question. All right, so now we've discussed the benefits, we discussed the challenges of AI. What are the future directions currently in eye care when it comes to AI? So there is a very, a promising direction regarding AI and smartphones, where you can screen from the comfort of your own home for various diseases like diabetic retinopathy, AMD, glaucoma, cataract, amblyopia, even ocular surface disease, just using a smartphone camera or even specialized camera attached to a smartphone, and you can do that from the comfort of your own home. So in conclusion, AI has revolutionized every aspect of our lives, medicine specifically and ophthalmology as well. There are potential vulnerabilities, however, that still exist. We've discussed earlier, so future research should focus on efforts to mitigate those vulnerabilities. And that's the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. If you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.